All right, everyone, welcome back into another Prize Picks and Underdog video. Going to be touching on the two games that we have available in NBA on Tuesday, talking about the best prop bets on both Underdog and Prize Picks. Let's go and get into it. So I did do the preview video for Monday's slate a day early, and we were able to gain a bunch of big edges. Hopefully we can do that again for the Tuesday slates. I'm recording this before the Monday games even take place, so we'll see. We're looking at, we got the Knicks versus the Bucks. The Bucks are going to be 5-point favorites in that game. That's going to be a 225.5 for the over and under. It's not the highest scoring game, and really compared to the Monday games, the two games that we're getting on Tuesday are going to be projected to be a little bit lower scoring. Looking at the injury report for both teams, nothing really too noteworthy except for Pat Connaughton and Jay Crowder still being out. We have noticed that Malik Beasley has been someone we could count on in terms of really fantasy score with those two players off the court, and that has been a great kind of value square for us for a few slates now. And so let's go ahead and start with the Milwaukee Bucks here. So right now, and I don't know if I exactly agree with this, but we are seeing Brook Lopez for under fantasy score is one that is popping up. Now, I do want to call out that as the day progresses tomorrow, there's going to be more and more sportsbooks putting out their lines. These lines can adjust, and you guys will see that the projection data isn't exactly pulling in too high. That's part of the reason as to why, just as an FYI. Again, the projection data is something that updates the day of, typically around like 4 a.m. Central Standard. But it is kind of crazy. Like with Malik Beasley, we have finally seen the line probably rise a little bit too much to the point where it's probably a little bit too high now. Now, I will say part of the reason I think as to why Brook Lopez fantasy score is so low is simply the matchup with the Knicks. That is a tough matchup for opposing bigs. A lot of his production is very much predicated on him getting some blocks, and I think the projection day is pretty much saying that he's not going to get 3 blocks in that game, and if he doesn't get 3 blocks, it's going to be tough for him to get that over fantasy score. Then we take a peek at Malik Beasley, who I said had been someone we have been really relying on a bunch. The data hadn't really caught up to his production. Well, maybe now it has. I mean, he has still been shooting the basketball really well, and maybe you could actually just roll with his points prop if you really wanted to use him. I don't mind that. Again, this has pretty much strongly correlated really well with when Jay Crowder and Pat Connaughton both have been out. He has been the one that has been benefiting the most in terms of production spiking. Bobby Portis has been playing well as well for what that's worth. Then looking at, Bobby Portis over steals, about a 53% chance for that to hit. And then we do see Bobby Portis for over fantasy score. That one also has a decent chance to hit. Kind of interesting though, looking at it, like pretty much the average sportsbook line would be favoring the line at about 22, but they'd massively be favoring the over, and that's why we are still getting a slight edge there. But this is a good example of kind of how the data adjusts for the lines that we are getting. If the line was set at 21.75, like the average sportsbook line would have it at, that'd be like a 55% chance to hit. Because it's 22.5, it is just down to 53%. From there, I do like Chris Middleton, get over points and rebounds. He is someone that we have seen play more and more minutes. And with that, I would say that probably does correlate pretty well with Lillard getting to 7 assists. The issue that I have is that Damian Lillard most likely will not get over 7 assists. And so we look at Middleton, guys, he has been playing a decent amount of minutes. Now, I do wonder with kind of the nature of this being the tournament, if he's going to be closer to 27, 29 minutes instead of 25 minutes. And then if he does that, he should be able to get the over points and rebound. Then from there, all the other lines that we're kind of getting for the Bucks feel a little bit too thin. Like you could bet on Giannis, you could bet on Lillard, but right now it's tough to trust really either one of those two on a per night basis in terms of figuring out which one's going to be the one that dominates, especially against the Knicks, who are a little bit better defensively than a lot of teams. We go ahead and switch up and get into the Knicks. Looking at right now, Jalen Brunson over fantasy score is one of the better prop bets that we are currently getting, and I do think that this is going to be one that jumps throughout the day tomorrow. Again, we saw that with a lot of prop bets from my video on Sunday night, is that a lot of the prop bets that I mentioned to be on, the odds really jumped up. So I do think I like Jalen Brunson. We are seeing a pretty darn good EV bet right now for RJ Barrett for 3.5 rebound. And so let's start with Brunson. Like he does get a pretty good matchup going against Dame Lillard defense for the most part, or campaign defense for what it's worth, getting those backup point guard minutes. He has been getting heavy minutes as well. We see the minutes there, 37, 40, 34 in a blowout still. And that's what I love to see. Like, I don't think the Bucks are going to blow out the Knicks, but at the same time, I guess it's within the realm of possibilities. All in all, Jalen Brunson has been playing well. All in all, I do think his stocks to turnovers ratio is going to be high enough to the point where we're getting plus points there. And so I do think the fantasy score is going to be one of the better prop bets that we get on him at 39. Yeah, it's pretty high. But at the same time, I'm kind of okay with it. Like, it probably will be a sweat, but all in all, it should be a good one. Now, I do just want to point out RJ Barrett as well. His fantasy score is very much dependent on how he's shooting the basketball. And so I don't know if we can touch that. I mean, the data doesn't really like it. The data actually really liked the over rebounds at 3.5. I do find that fascinating because he does average only 3.6. Against the Bucks, I wouldn't personally think that that'd be a spot where someone would see a slight increase in production. All in all, though, I'm perfectly fine taking the EV bet that we get there with RJ Barrett for over 3.5 rebounds. From there, yeah, we can see this is probably part of the reason as to why PrizePicks likes the over there for the fantasy score. Likely to get over assists, likely to get over points. That's going to correlate pretty well. Julius Randle, don't really need to touch that. Mitchell Robinson, over 6 points, extremely fascinating. It's such a low line, but at the same time, I guess we could see him not getting there going against Brook and Giannis. So very interesting there. Emmanuel quickly for under points. He is someone that I do kind of worry about getting minutes in this game, just because I think it's going to be a Jalen Brunson heavy minutes type game, and if that occurs, he probably will get the under points, and so probably just one that we don't need to touch, and that's going to be the case for all these other props. Now these are all decent, like Julius Randle over 39.5 for his fantasy score, decent edge there. RJ Barrett, decent edge there. Like if you guys wanted to, we have some correlated prop bets here. Julius Randle, RJ Barrett over fantasy score, Jalen Brunson over fantasy score, and then you could run it back potentially with Beasley and Brook Lopez for under their fantasy score. All in all, I don't know if I want to do that with the Bucks though. Let's go on and move on into the second game on Tuesday. That's going to be the Suns versus the Lakers, about a 2-point spread or so, and then about a 228 for the over and under. Looking at the injury report, we do need to get news on Eric Gordon. If he sits, that's going to lead to Grayson Allen being in an increased workload. And we also are seeing Bradley Beal listed as out. That's not really a shock. And then Gabe Vincent, game time decision. The Lakers are finally healthy. You know, their injury reports, tough to say when someone's actually banged up or not. But yeah, they should be good to go. So now the first prop that we're seeing here that's popping up is going to be Grayson Allen for under fantasy score. Again, to me, this would be a line that would drastically change. Not drastically, but I think the over would be favored if we did get news that Eric Gordon was. So let's start with kind of looking at Eric Gordon, his questionable status. Won't play on Saturday. Again, it kind of makes sense with the nature of this being the in-season tournament and whatnot. We'll see if he does play on Tuesday. Now, if he sits, again, I do think it'll be Grayson Allen that steps up. Interestingly enough, though, it's actually Jordan Goodwin that gets the most minutes, and then Grayson Allen, very tight there. Looking at Jordan Goodwin, let's just call it out, has about a 17% usage rate, averages about 14.7 points per 36, so he's not going to get 36 minutes. For Jordan Goodwin, this would be a good example. If we get those props, click on him, and then once the data updates throughout the day tomorrow, we'll get the projected data in there, and then we'll get these projections in there as well. But he is someone that, again, per 36, Jordan Goodwin averages 14.7 points, 7.4 rebounds, 4.1 is about 12.6 shot attempts. So that's the thing. He should get some shot attempts. Now in the last game, we did not really see that. So is there something there, or is that just a weird sample size that we have? I kind of think it's a weird sample size. The player that I want to be banking on is going to be Grayson Allen. He is someone that, all in all, has been able to make differences even without shooting the basketball too well. Like last game with Gordon out, he only shot 2 3-balls. Like you would think that would be up a little bit higher. And looking at the data, he does average 4 3-balls attempted per 36 with Gordon and Bradley Beal off the court. Usage rate is actually very low, and his actually fantasy point total is very low. He only averages 20.4 fantasy points per 36 with those two players off the court. And I think that's probably partially due to the fact that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant both have massive usage rate. And so we're seeing Devin Booker for over fantasy scores, one that's popping up. Devin Booker has a 34% usage rate with those two players off the court, averages 49 fantasy points per 36, averages 28.9 points, 6.6 rebounds, 7.8 assists, while averaging 20 shot attempts. So yeah, I can definitely get behind Booker in some capacity, whether it's points and rebounds, whether it's fantasy score. Fantasy score is the one that's popping up the most, but all in all, it does seem like we're getting a pretty good edge there regardless. Another one that's kind of popping up for us is going to be Yusuf Nurk. I'll touch on that in a second. I do want to mention Kevin Durant in terms of his props. He is someone per 36, averages 32% usage rate, 48.5 fantasy points, 28 points, 6 rebounds, 5.6 assists, also around 20 shot attempts. So this rebound one, I probably actually don't want to touch for him. And really, I think the only other one we would like is actually going to be the fantasy score one. That probably feels a little bit too thin. I think I just want to roll with Devin Booker. Then we did see Yusuf Nurk for over his fantasy scores, one that's popping up. Only about a 53% chance to hit, maybe a slight edge there. The question I have is, will AD get him into foul trouble or anything like that? You know, we see this. He has been crushing lately. We'd love to see that. And that's really been rooted in the fact that he has been getting around 30 or so minutes. And so again, if that continues, we should be good to go. The issue that we were going to see, 6 fouls. That's why I didn't get 30 minutes in the last game and 6 fouls against Denver. That is very much a concern. But all in all, I don't love love to bet bets with banking on someone getting into foul trouble. So I do think that that's going to be a good prop. From there, I'll just show you guys the props that we have. Probably all a little bit too thin. I will say on Underdog, Rice Allen for over 16 points, rebounds, and assists could be a way to go for you guys. And then I will get into Underdog after I get into the Lakers here. So real quickly, let's touch on the Lakers. The issue that I have with the Lakers is that they're all going to be properly valued. And so it's going to be really tough to really find any big edges on their props because, again, they are going to be properly valued. It's kind of a guessing game between Reeves and Russell, especially with LeBron and also AD active. I expect Anthony Davis to have a good game. But all in all, the props that we are currently getting, I just don't love too much for the Lakers. So right now, this would be my favorite bet slip then on PrizePicks. I do want to add in another bet if I can. I don't really want to run out a 3-slip bet on PrizePicks. Again, the payout's better on Underdog. You're better off doing that there. Using the 2 good fantasy score props that we have and then rolling with Brunson for over 3.5 rebound. That's going to be all for this video, though. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. Do appreciate that. If you guys want access to the 95sports.com PrizePicks and Underdog cheat sheet, click the link in the description below. It's available for $10 a month. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.